My brothers and sisters, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Let me start by saying this: wealth is not what you have in your hand. Wealth is what you have in your head. If your thinking is broke, your bank account will catch up. But if your thinking is abundant, eventually your finances, your family, and your future will reflect that. Today, I want to talk to you about something that's not just important, it's essential. It's what I call the Millionaire Mind Shift. Now, hear me clearly, I'm not here to talk about money just for money's sake. Money is a tool. Money is a magnifier. Money doesn't make you evil or good. It makes you more of what you already are. And if you're not thinking right, then more money will just mess you up faster. Most people live their entire lives trapped in a scarcity mindset, and they don't even realize it. They've been conditioned from childhood to believe that there's only so much to go around. That money is hard to get. That success is reserved for a lucky few. They hear things like money doesn't grow on trees or rich people are greedy, and those phrases don't just pass through their ears, they plant roots. They settle deep into the subconscious and begin to govern every financial decision, every risk avoided, every dream downsized. A scarcity mindset teaches you to be careful, not courageous. It tells you to protect instead of pursue. And as long as you're functioning from that limited perspective, you will never access the wealth that's available to you. Scarcity sees life as a zero-sum game. If someone else wins, you lose. If someone else gets ahead, you're falling behind. This kind of thinking produces envy, fear, hesitation, and self-sabotage. You begin to hoard instead of invest. You shrink instead of expand. They see the strength of it. You say things like, I can't afford that, rather asking, how can I afford that? It's a mental prison, and most people are locked in by nothing more than their own thoughts. Abundance, on the other hand, they seize the world differently. An abundant mind knows that opportunities are everywhere, that resources are not scarce. They're just underutilized. That wealth isn't something someone gives you, it's something you create. A person with an abundant set understands that the universe isn't limited, that the only ceiling is the one you've accepted. While scarcity fights for crumbs, abundance builds bakeries. While scarcity complains about what's missing, abundance multiplies what's already in hand. When you shift from scarcity to abundance, your language changes, your questions change. You see the stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what if this works? You stop looking at problems and start seeing them as invitations to grow, to stretch, to create solutions. Scarcity is reactive. Abundance is proactive. One waits for permission, the other takes responsibility. That shift in how you think is the difference between staying broke and building wealth. And here's what most people don't realize. Abundance is not about how much you have. It's about how you think about what you have. Two people can look at the same bank account, the same job, the same circumstance. One sees limitation, the other sees leverage. The one with the scarcity mindset says, this isn't enough. The one with an abundance mind says, what can I do with what I've got? That second person is the one who moves forward, who takes action, who multiplies. This mindset shift also affects how you relate to others. When you operate from scarcity, you see everyone as competition. You resent people who succeed. That you see the try to protect your small corner of the world because you're afraid someone might take it from you. But when you think abundantly, you celebrate others. You collaborate. You share ideas. You invest in people. They see the strength of you're not intimidated by someone else's growth because you know there's more than enough for everyone. You're not trying to get your piece of the pie. You're building a bigger pie. That's why this shift has to happen before you ever see $1 of real wealth, because wealth doesn't start in your wallet. It starts in your head. Until you believe that more is possible, until you believe that more is available, they see the strength of until you believe that more is within your reach. You'll keep living like it isn't. You'll keep managing lack. You'll keep settling for less. And eventually you'll start calling survival wisdom. And you'll start calling struggle noble. But struggle isn't noble. Scarcity isn't spiritual. Lack is not your identity. Most people were trained to be consumers from the time they were children. They were taught to buy, to spend, to depend on someone else's system, someone else's product, someone else's vision. The world pushes consumption at every turn. Ads tell you what to wear, what to dry eat, what to believe. Schools tell you what job to get. Culture tells you what success should look like. And slowly, you're conditioned to live your entire life consuming what someone else created, following someone else's blueprint, and hoping you have enough left over at the end to retire comfortably. This is the default setting for most people, and it's why they stay broke, frustrated, and stuck. A consumer mindset says, what can I get? A creator mindset says, what can I build? That single difference is the dividing line between people who live paycheck to peck and those who create financial freedom. The consumer looks for comfort. The creator looks for contribution. They see the strength. The consumer waits for opportunities. The creator makes them. When you think like a consumer, you're always reacting to the world around you. But when you think like a creator, you're shaping it. One of the biggest final traps of consumption without value return. People buy things they can't afford to impress people they don't even like, using money they haven't earned yet. They trade their future for momentary gratification. But the millionaire mind shift says, I'm not just here to consume, I'm here to produce. The question is not how much money you make at your job. The question is what you are doing with your mind, your skills, your voice, your ideas. The wealthiest people in the world didn't get there by buying more. They got there by creating more. Creation isn't limited to artists or inventors. Everyone has the ability to create a product, a solution, a business, a system, a stream of income. Creation begins the moment you start thinking, what problem can I solve? What need can I meet? What skill can I develop that makes someone else's life easier, better, faster, or more enjoyable? That's where value is born. And when you create value, you attract money. A creator mindset sees money as a seed, not just a harvest. Consumers spend, creators invest. Whether it's investing time into learning a skill, energy into building something useful, or money into scalable opportunities, creators understand that what they plant today grows tomorrow. Consumers look for discounts, but creators look for leverage. Consumers ask, can I afford it? Creators ask, will this multiply? That shift alone changes your entire financial future. Another critical difference between consumers and creators is responsibility. Consumers blame. The economy is bad. My boss won't promote me. Nobody's buying. Creators take ownership. They say, if it's not working, I'll fix it. They don't wait for the world to change. They change their world. They don't wait for someone else to open a door. They build their own. Thinking like a creator also impacts how you use your time. Consumers waste time. They see the strength of they scroll Bing escape. Creators use time intentionally. They build during the hours, are distracted. They learn while others are entertained. They use what they have to get what they want. And they understand that time is a more valuable asset than money. Once spent, doesn't come back. Being a creator doesn't mean you stop enjoying life. It means you start designing it. Instead of being at the mercy of trends, the jobs or economic conditions, you take control, you create, not just wait for it. You build platforms, not just rely on someone else's. You stop chasing money and start attracting it, because money flows to value, and value comes from creation. Fear is one of the most powerful forces in human behavior. It controls decisions, shapes outcomes, and keeps people stuck in cycles of mediocrity. Fear whispers the worst case scenario in your ear. It magnifies risk and minimizes reward. It tells you to stay safe, to avoid failure, to play it small. Fear isn't always loud. It often hides behind logic. It sounds like, now's not the right time, or I just need more information, or what if it doesn't work? These thoughts don't sound like fear, but that's exactly what they are. Fear wears many masks. And if you don't learn to recognize it, it will run your life. Faith, on the other hand, is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith sees what fear refuses to. It looks past the current circumstances and chooses to believe in a greater future. Where fear builds barriers, faith builds bridges. Fear is rooted in control, the need to guarantee an outcome before taking a step. Faith doesn't demand guarantees. Faith moves forward based on vision, not validation. It acts even when the path isn't fully clear. That's the kind of mindset that creates breakthrough. Most people want results, but they're paralyzed by the possibility of loss. They want success without rejection. They want profit without risk. They want to grow without discomfort. But growth doesn't come in the comfort zone. Faith is the willingness to step into the unknown with confidence, not because you know what will happen, but because you trust your ability to adapt, respond, and rise. Faith says, even if I fall, I'll get back up. That's the mindset of high achiever. There's no such thing as a fearless person. Everyone feels fear. The difference is that successful people don't let fear make decisions for them. They feel it and move anyway. They've trained themselves to act in spite of fear, not in the absence of it. They don't wait for all the lights to turn green before they leave the driveway. They take the next step, knowing the rest will reveal itself along the way. That's how momentum is created, through movement, not through certainty. One of the most dangerous lies fear tells is that failure is final, that if you mess up, if you lose money, if something goes wrong, it's over. But the truth is, if failure is data, it's feedback. It's a sign that you're doing something, trying something, pushing beyond what's comfortable. The only people who don't fail are the people who never try. And the only thing more expensive than trying is never trying at all. The cost of missed opportunity is far greater than the cost of failure. When you operate from fear, you make decisions based on protection. You avoid delay and downplay. You protect what little you have because you believe there's more coming. But when you operate from faith, you make decisions based on expansion. You give, you invest, you move, you expect a return. They see the strength, not because it's guaranteed, because you know you're aligned with purpose, and purpose always makes a way. The reason most people don't build wealth isn't because they're not smart enough or talented enough. It's because they're afraid of what others will think, afraid of stepping into the unknown, afraid of making a mistake. But fear is a liar. It tells you that staying the same is safer than growing. It tells you small is secure, but there's nothing safe about staying small. Playing it safe is often the most dangerous decision you can make. Faith requires courage. It's not about feeling ready. It's about deciding to move even when you're not. Most people spend their entire lives chasing income. They think the goal is to make more money, to earn a bigger paycheck, to climb the corporate ladder. But income alone is not the measure of wealth, and it's certainly not the measure of legacy. The millionaire mind shift happens when you stop focusing solely on income and start focusing on impact. Income pays your bills, but impact changes your life and the lives of others. When you focus on solving bigger problems, creating more value, and serving at a higher level, the income naturally follows. But when you chase income without understanding impact, you'll always feel like it's not enough. Chasing income leads to burnout. It creates a life of constant hustle with no deeper meaning. You work for the grind, for promotions. You chase raises and bonuses, but it never quite satisfies. That's because money by itself, it doesn't fulfill. It pays for things, but it doesn't give you purpose. Impact, however, gives your work meaning. It connects your skills to something bigger than yourself. It gives you a reason to keep going when money isn't enough to motivate you. When you shift to impact, you stop asking, how much can I make? And start asking, how much value can I bring? People who focus on impact become irreplaceable. They don't just do their job. They transform environments. They don't just show up. They make things better. They look for ways to contribute, to elevate others, to innovate. The marketplace rewards those who bring impact. The greater the impact, the greater the compensation. That's how wealth is built. Not by trading time for dollars, but by trading value for results. When you find a way to help more people at a deeper level, your income can scale without limit. This mindset also changes your strategy. Instead of looking for the highest paying job, you look for the biggest problem you can solve. You stop seeking comfort and start seeking challenges because you know that bigger challenges lead to bigger rewards. You're no longer afraid of pressure because you understand that pressure produces diamonds. When you focus on impact, you become solution-oriented. You develop new skills, ask better questions, and align your efforts with real needs in the world. That's where true influence is born. Another powerful truth is that impact multiplies. When you help one person, that person goes on to help others. Your influence expands beyond what you can see. A product you create, a message you share, a system you design, these things can reach people you'll never meet in places you'll never go. Income is limited by your effort. Impact is multiply your intention. That's why legacy is built through impact, not earnings. Nobody remembers how much money someone made. They remember how that person made them feel, what they taught, how they served, and what they stood for. When you focus on impact, you attract the right people. Clients, partners, investors, they're all drawn to individuals who are purpose-driven. They want to be part of something bigger, something meaningful. Money becomes a tool to serve, not just to spend. And the more people you help, the more money flows as a natural result. You no longer have to chase it because value pulls it in. This shift also gives you staying power. Income can fluctuate, market shift, economies tighten, but if your focus is on impact, you will always be in demand. You're not just chasing trends, you're creating transformation. You're not just competing, you're contributing. You're not building for now, you're building for the next generation. That's the difference. That's the shift. That's the mindset that creates wealth that lasts. Wealth is not something you earn in the traditional sense of trading hours for dollars. True wealth is created. It comes from understanding value, leverage, and ownership. Most people are conditioned to believe that the money is through hard work. Get a job, work 40 hours a week, and hope for a raise. But that model has a ceiling. It's limited by time, energy, and someone else's decision. They see the strength of that you can only earn so much no matter how skilled or educated you are because you're operating within a system designed to benefit the creator of the system, not the employee inside it. That's why the shift from earning to creating is essential. Creating wealth starts with creating value. Money is simply a certificate of value exchanged. If you want more money, you have to provide more value. You have to identify problems and solve them. You have to find inefficiencies and create solutions. The marketplace doesn't reward effort. It rewards results. Two people can work the same number of hours, but one creates exponentially more income because they've learned how to multiply their impacts. The mindset difference, that's not about working harder. It's about thinking higher. Assets are what the wealthy focus on. Not paychecks, but assets that produce income without direct effort. Businesses, intellectual property, investment systems. These are all vehicles of wealth creation. When you create something that generates money, whether you work or not, you've broken free from the cycle of earning. You've created leverage. And leverage is where wealth lies. It's the ability to do the work once and get paid over and over again. It's writing a book that sells while you sleep. It's building a course that trains thousands without being in the room. It's developing a product, licensing a process, or investing in something that grows without your daily involvement. Creating wealth also means taking ownership. Ownership is what separates creators from earners. When you earn, someone else owns. When you create, you own. And ownership is where control and freedom intersect. If you don't know what you're building, you're just a piece of someone else's plan. You might be well compensated, but you're still limited. Ownership gives you the ability to pivot, scale, and build legacy. It means you're not just working for income, you're working for equity. The mindset of creation also demands responsibility. When you're creating wealth, you're not waiting on someone else to give you permission. You're not blaming the economy, the boss, or the government owning the results. You're taking initiative, you're becoming resourceful. Creators don't ask, can I afford this? They ask, how can I create the resources to afford it? That question alone unlocks creativity, strategy, and execution. It forces you to think differently, act boldly, and move intentionally. Another key element in creating wealth is understanding systems. Systems allow for scalability. If everything depends on your direct effort, your growth is capped. But when you create systems, automated processes, team structures, digital tools, you remove yourself from the center of everything. That's how wealth grows. The creator builds the system and the system produces income. That's the reason fast food franchise owners make more than the fry cooks. It's not because they work harder. It's because they created or acquired a system. Risk is also part of the creation process. There's no wealth without risk, but calculated risk aligned with vision and backed by preparation is how new wealth is birthed. While most people avoid risk and stay in familiar territory, creators lean into the unknown with confidence. They understand that the cost of not creating is often far greater than the cost of failure. Waiting for the perfect moment is just fear in disguise. Creation starts now with what's in your hand. It begins when you realize that your ideas, your skills, your experiences, they all carry value that the world is willing to pay for. The foundation of every financial outcome begins with identity. Who you believe you are shapes how you behave, and how you behave determines what you build. People often focus on strategies, tools, and tactics, but they overlook the most powerful factor in their results, their internal self-concept. You will never outperform the image you hold of yourself. If deep down you believe you're not worthy of wealth, not capable of success, or not designed for greatness, every opportunity that comes your way will be filtered through that identity. You may touch success, but you won't keep it. You may start building wealth, but you'll sabotage it. Your identity sets the thermostat, and no matter how much money you make or how many doors open, if your internal setting is low, you'll always find a way to turn the temperature back down. Identity is shaped early, from childhood. People are told what they can and cannot do. Family, school, culture, all of it plays a role in constructing beliefs. Maybe you were told money doesn't come easy. Maybe you heard that people like you don't get ahead. Maybe you saw struggle modeled as normal. And over time, those ideas become agreements. Silent, unconscious, but powerful. So you carry that into adulthood, trying to create a life that contradicts your internal programming. And no matter how many books you read or plans you make, you keep getting pulled back to what feels familiar. That's why change isn't just about information. It's about transformation. They see the strength of the transformation begins with challenging false beliefs. You're not a victim of your circumstances. You're not bound by your upbringing. You are not limited by your past. But if you don't question those beliefs, they will remain the default setting of your life. Many people try to act like a millionaire without thinking like one, and definitely without seeing themselves as one. But the inner picture always wins. Actions follow identity. When you truly believe that you are someone capable of producing wealth, of handling increase, of creating lasting impact, your behavior aligns with that belief. You make decisions differently. You manage time differently. You invest, plan, and build with a long-term view because you see yourself as someone with a long-term legacy. The danger is when people try to pursue wealth as a way to change how they feel about themselves. They think money will give them confidence, security, or self-worth. But money only amplifies what's already there. If you're insecure, wealth will expose it. If you're unstable, wealth will magnify it. That's why identity has to shift first. You don't become wealthy to feel successful. You feel successful because you've adopted the identity of someone who produces results, solves problems, and creates value. The external catches up to the internal. Identity also drives resilience when setbacks come, and they will. It's not skills or resources that get you through, it's identity. If you see yourself as someone who always finds a way, you'll keep pushing. If you believe you're a finisher, not a quitter, you'll stay in the game long enough to win. But if you've accepted an identity of failure, lack, or smallness, you'll quit the moment resistance shows up. Your identity becomes your filter. It decides what you accept and what you reject. When you walk into a room with confidence in who you are, opportunities respond. When you speak from a place of alignment with your purpose, people listen. When you see yourself as valuable, you start creating value that others will pay for. True wealth begins when you shift your internal picture. When you stop seeing yourself as someone who's trying to get ahead and start seeing yourself as someone who builds, leads, and multiplies. It's not about arrogance. It's about ownership. You own your story. You own your growth. They see the strength of your results. And when your identity aligns with abundance, your actions follow and the outcomes begin to shift.